Welcome back to Chris and Retro. Today's video is about beef, and I not the hamburger kind. It's been interesting. I had this thought a couple days ago, and I first took a stab at this recording this video back then, and I'm glad I paused on that, and I thought I'd wait a little bit because I've had a few conversations since then that weren't intentional. Well, one was intentional, but the other ones, it's kind of like maybe I'm just more sensitive to seeing other people's opinions on it the last few days or what. But this idea of beef and these arguments that we get into and what we feel we need to do and what we're drawn to as human beings. I'll go through a few of the things I've noticed lately, but I was talking to a friend the other night, and we were making that observation as well. So, back when I was growing up, there was a cartoon. Cartoon. Try again, Chris. A commercial that was out there for two fast food restaurants, and the one had this old lady on there, and she was ripping on the other restaurants, lack of hamburger size. So it's where's the beef was a big thing that went up through, and I'm sure if I look at the demographics of my audience so far, a lot of you are you're fully aware of that commercial. To me, it was super annoying as a kid growing up listening to that, but it was popular. And then now, lo and behold, it finds itself in my channel all these years later. That where's the beef? It's kind of like it was a joke about where this burger was, but beef has taken on a different connotation over the years in terms of that's arguments and fighting, and they're really kind of ridiculous in a lot of why we do them and some of the things that we fight over. And I'm going to make a few observations about some of the dangers I think about behaving that way. Now, it's going to come across a bit hypocritical because I'm about as confrontational as it gets, especially with certain things. If you push on certain buttons with me, I'm definitely 100% interested in that conflict. But beyond that, I'm not really interested in every conflict. There's some things I'm just like, that's just stupid. So I'll see. I picked on Ruslan XD. This is an evidence of my point, is that we are drawn to these conflicts. I wasn't really in a conflict. I was making an observation about Ruslan XD and Marcus Rogers in an argument with two Christian men on YouTube. And I thought it was absurd that their message is supposed to be something else, and here they are arguing in front of everybody. I thought it was a bad look. I called that out. Lo and behold, it's one of my more popular videos because it was a famous YouTuber, well, somewhat famous for his genre. And, that drew in a lot of discussion and people got in arguments on the comments and pretty lively. And, I got called a few names and everything else. And, with that controversy, it drew attention to my channel. Now, what's interesting is they, based on their own bias, assumed certain things about me. For one is, being a Christian man, they assume my channel was a faith-based channel, and it's not. It's just about Chris, who I am, and I have a lot of elements of who I am, and they encompass a lot of different things. But this channel is not a faith-based channel. It's a secular channel with a lot of different information on here that I welcome. So that was interesting. So that beef brought people to side with me in a way that they didn't even realize what they were siding with, and then some against me, and they didn't even know what they were against. I had an opinion about something that they decided to create this fight over. It was another pointless beef. You look at history, and this is what my friend and I were talking the other night about, is our current state of our country. And I'm not saying that we're having another civil war coming on. I think a lot of people go so far as to say we'll have a civil war, but I'm not saying that. I think that there are some elements of it that are history repeating itself. So if you look at, I was watching a documentary on the Civil War, and what you notice is that the free states and the slave states were almost tit for tat in the new territories that they would grow. And it was almost became institutionalized that this is how we would behave. So if a free state established a new territory, a slavery state would establish another territory. And it literally was tit for tat until things started to blow up a little bit. And, history took on its own course because that conflict was just bubbling and ready to blow. You look at a lot of the political arguments we have today, nobody's winning. It's tit for tat. I come up with a controversy in a legal matter against one party. The other one comes up with a controversy in legal matter against the other party. They're both having their righteous indignation all across the media in front of us. We side with the thing that we have a bias towards all the time, and nothing ever really gets accomplished. We just spend all this time arguing with beef. We have a beef, and it really doesn't accomplish anything. What was the long-term objective in the first place other than just arguing? So that's kind of the culture that we're in. It really doesn't get us anywhere. We're not fighting over anything. We're actually never really fighting. And I forget who it was that was mentioning it. There was another conflict going on. It's a mixed martial arts fighter. It's actually with Nate Diaz's team. I'm not going to call him out because I don't want to draw to that, but there was an argument that he had, and I think he was right, but he's being called a racist and everything else. And he was not being racist, but he's being called a Nazi and all these other things. And he solved it through a physical conflict. And, it was right on that one, that everybody argues with you until they actually have to physically deal with it. And I think in many cases, a lot of these fights don't happen if there's a physical outcome. So the point is we get on the online, we get in media, and we argue and argue and argue to no end. So why do we do that? Well, we do it for attention. It's not really objective based. We do it to make a point and to rally people around us so we feel comfortable in a herd. We're not comfortable on our own. Excuse me. We don't stand on our own 2 feet well as a country. One of the things I'm thankful for is I'm okay with standing by me. I like it when people come alongside me and want to be part of what I got to do here, but I need my downtime. So it's good for me to kind of be a little bit of a nomad on certain things. So I don't really need the herd. But I think a lot of us do to feel strong. Now, to further amplify the point, and so I had a beef this morning with my 19-year-old daughter. She's a second-year student at state school here in New York State, and a psych major. Great kid. She's doing so many good things in this life, and I'm super thankful for her. But we get in these little arguments sometimes. And this morning it was over pretzels. So she had this garlic salt pretzel that she thought was the greatest thing ever. And I said, I don't like pretzels. And she said, try it. And I said, well, I already did. She says, did you really? I said, no. So I tried pretzel. I tried the pretzel, and there was no way I was going to like this pretzel. Could have been the best pretzel in the whole world. There was no way I was going to say this was good. Why? Because I was in an argument with her. And even if I agreed with her, I wasn't going to agree with her. This is kind of how we do this socially. At the same time, it got worse. So I said, I don't like pretzels at all. And she said, why? And I said, well, because I've never had a pretzel that didn't require a lot of salt or something else on it to hide what it actually tastes like, the texture of its smooth surface and disgusting everything. So she says, so you eat potatoes? And they always have salt and stuff on them too. And I said, no, my potatoes never have anything in them. They don't have salt, garlic, or anything on them. I just eat potatoes raw. And she was sure that that's not true. And I was arguing that it was true, that I've never had anything else on my potatoes but raw potato. Now, obviously, that's an absurd argument. And for her, she could express outrage over the absurdity of the fact that I'm willing to stand on um, the rock of this lie that I only eat potatoes with no salt or nothing else on them, which is an absurd notion, but I was willing to proclaim it. At the same time, I find it equally absurd that pretzels there's never a pretzel without anything on it either, and that's and that they're actually good without all the salt and stuff. So you see the point. We were both getting this. It was a funny argument. We were just joking back and forth because we do get in those arguments sometimes where we'll just stand firm over ridiculousness. And she's enough like me that it lasts a while. But it's kind of like that publicly. We get these arguments, and it's obviously not over something like chips and potatoes, but it's still to that point where bystanders that might be leaning towards one side or the other saying, who is believing this nonsense? And the other side's going, who's believing that nonsense? In the end, we are not striving for any objective at all, but we will throw out noble things like for the Constitution and for freedom and, all this other crap. And it's not real. Or we'll say for the theology is incorrect in the Bible. And we'll get in these debates over who's right and who's wrong. And we're not objective driven, where it's all about proving our point, which is in this day and age never going to be proven. You're never getting a W on that. You never are. So what was my point on this? Well, I think that we need to recognize what these beefs are really about. They're really about who's right, who's wrong, and who I can get around me to make me feel like I'm doing the right thing, or at least I got people on my team. It's a glorified gym class hero. You weren't the last picked in gym class. You were the first, and everybody else wants to be on your team. That's on your team. So you feel a certain way about that. I would argue, at least, especially in the YouTube community, there's a lot of this too. I was watching Black Dragon last night, an interview he was doing with Mitch Smiley. And on there, they were talking about this. I forget what the term they use, but basically it's leveraging other people's YouTube clout for your channel. And I think in a lot of ways we do that as content creators to an extent, but when you're solely based on that and you're creating beefs with other channels so you can leverage that audience to make sure that you're getting drawn, what's the point? And here's the caution on it, and the caution with any of this stuff: it's short-lived. You might be a flash in the pan. You're the fight in the schoolyard that everybody wants to go see. Nobody wants to see people shaking hands in the schoolyard with kids. They hear fight, 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 and they all want to go watch the fight. Same thing happens with this. Everybody wants to go see the fight or hear the controversy, but after a while that drones on and on and on. You get sick of watching the fight. It's not sustainable. What is sustainable is authenticity, but it doesn't get the spark. It takes time, and over time it gets there. What is sustainable is objective-based living, objective-based behaving. So if you have an objective about who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, strive for that. make sure you stick to your true north. Don't create all these side bit hustles and all this side bit drama to present something that to get attention then, because it's not sustainable. On this channel, I got a flash in the pan with that comment I made about Ruslan XD, and I've had a picture of a baby on there and everything else. Because it was annoying to me. It was basically, as a person in recovery that found strength in God, if I was a person back in my active use and saw those two knuckleheads going, that I would have run from that, because I'm like, that is nothing that I want. So that for me and my objectives with that portion of my life, I saw them behaving in a way that was disruptive for somebody else that might need the message that they could actually deliver. And so for me, I put that out there. However, in that place, had a boost in my viewership. I had a boost in my subs. And that's not sustainable, because some of those subs, as they start to see what this channel is, realize that I'm a lot of things here. I'm Chris. Chris has a lot of tentacles on a lot of different things, and they're all just who I am. And so if you expect me to be a certain way and you sign up for me to be on your team, this is probably not the best channel for you, because you're not going to hear everything you want to hear on here. What we are going to do is hear things that are options for people to get better, options for you to find to get stronger. When I'm talking about this idea of beef, it's not sustainable to create a ruckus around you all the time and create drama around you all the time to get attention and get people on your team. If you're going through a divorce, it is not beneficial to your kids and others to collect as many people on your version of the story so you can hear how bad your ex was. That's doing nothing but making you feel like you're not alone, and it's doing nothing to help anybody, even yourself. I brought this to the channel today because I've been hearing so much about it lately, and little pieces, and I was like, you know what, this is definitely something that has to go. And the straw that broke the camel's back is my daughter trying to convince me that pretzels were good on any front. They suck. I don't care who you are and what you believe. Pretzels suck, and that's why they have salt or something on them all the time. And yes, I do put salt and things like that on my potatoes. My mashed potatoes have garlic butter in it and everything else. So it was kind of a lie to make my argument, but I still think pretzels suck. Going forward, maybe we can make a commitment to each other. I won't always hold to this. There's going to be people that irritate me, and I'll probably call them out on this channel. And in fact, Ruslan XD just did something the other day about another Christian that he was calling out that irritated me, and I almost did something on it. You may catch me in some hypocrisy from time to time on here with that. But the point is that it's not sustainable. If I want this channel to be sustainable, if I want my life sustainable, it has to be based on substance and objectives and things that I'm actually striving for, and not what I'm doing to take other people's inventory and show how bad they are and use that as a way to make me elevate myself. It's no different than domestic violence. As men fall and they start to get themselves more into trouble, and they're starting to lose their deity in their own mind and their kingdom, they want to push people below them to keep them beneath them so they can remain king. We kind of do that when we're beefing with other people too. We're not standing on our own laurels and our own strength and our own message when we start tearing other people down and taking other people's inventory so that we don't have people look at our own. Thanks for joining me on this video today. Please like and subscribe, share, comment. Let's get some lively comments on here on a non-fighting video. See if we can prove YouTube and the algorithm wrong, and actually our politicians. Let's show our politicians that we can actually have a conversation about things that are objective driven without having to pit sides against each other. We don't always have to agree. I'm not saying this is a kumbaya thing, and in fact, if you were agreeing with me on everything, my mind says, what are you up to? What are you trying to get from me? If you're disagreeing with me and being honest about it, but at the same time being willing to have a conversation to at least seek to understand. We may not come to a common ground necessarily, but if we at least seek to understand, we can at least come to a respectful place that we just don't agree. The agree to disagree, I think, is a cop-out unless you actually do the work to get to a place to find out, well, it just wasn't workable, but we'll be fine either way. Thanks for joining. Until I talk to you again, I hope you guys have a great rest of your holiday season. I'm sure I'll put a couple other videos on here before we land 2022. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.